let's begin the session with the blessings of Almighty.
शारदे मातारदे हमें विद्या का भंडार दे तुझे कोटि कोटि प्रणाम है तुझे नमन बारंबार रे हे शारदे मातारदे हमें विद्या का भंडार दे बल बुद्धि दो ज्ञानी हम माँ शक्ति और धरदानी तुम सब जग के पालनहार रे कर नैया भव से पार रे.
On behalf of Bhavan's team, I welcome you all to this session of question paper design and development for senior secondary classes. I thank Dr. A.K. Sharma sir for providing us this platform where all the educators collaborate to share their insights. The series of these sessions are an endeavor to equip the Bhavan's educators with the skills to develop competency-based question papers. Now I invite Ms. Harpreet Kaur, PGT Chemistry, Bharti Vidya Bhavan, SL Public School, Amritsar, to share her insights for the design and development of chemistry question paper for senior secondary classes. She has a vast experience of 21 years of teaching chemistry and mentoring. She is a CBSE Best PGT Chemistry Teacher Awardee 2020-21. She is CBSE Resource Person and is mentor and guide teacher for National Children's Science Congress, CBSE Science Exhibitions, Inspire Manik Award. Welcome, ma'am. Welcome to the session. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Namaskar, sir. Namaskar, everyone.
Namaskar, madam.
First of all, my sincerest thanks to Dr. A.K. Sharma, sir, for providing me this opportunity to share my views. As there is a shift in the education system from acquiring knowledge to the acquisition of skills and competences, there is the need for the competency-based educational ecosystem in which not only the teaching strategies and pedagogies must be competency based, but so have to be the assessment mechanisms. So just give me a second. There's, I think, a technical glitch. Just 1 second. I need to share it again. Sorry for that technical glitch. Now, when and why the need for the educational ecosystem, competency based educational ecosystem arose. It arose from the alarming results showcased by the Indian students in the international levels as in PISA. That is the program for international student assessment that measures the abilities of 15-year-old learners to use reading, maths, science in their real life situations, in which India ranked 72nd out of 73 countries. NAS, National Assessment Survey, that also highlighted the problem of low learning levels, which decline as the child progresses. The proficiency level in the language in the class 3 that dropped from 47% to 39% in class 8. And so in maths, it dropped from 53% in class 3 to 40% in class 8, and the results of NAS 21, which also tested the children in the classes 3, 5, 8, besides class 10. They were also showing the same picture. According to NAS 21, students' learning outcomes, they declined as they progressed into the higher classes. From class 3, the national average score that dropped from 59% to 37% in class 10. And as Hartinder sir also quoted in the yesterday's session, that most of the MNCs, they say 95% of Indian engineers are useless. But my dear friends, they are actually not useless. The youth of today is useless. They are not careless. They are caredless. So there's an urgent need to tap their cognitive levels right from the early age and develop the teaching learning strategies and assessment mechanisms that discourage rote learning and lead to the development of skills and competences. And the ultimate key tool, as we have been discussing for the last couple of days, that is used to design and develop the question papers that are competency based, is Bloom's taxonomy. And my dear friends, let me make this thing very clear to you that Bloom's taxonomy is not something new to the education system. It was created in 1956 under the leadership of Benjamin Bloom in order to develop the higher order thinking skills nearly 70 years back. And unfortunately, we have yet not adapted it in the true sense. Now, all the examination boards have aligned the question paper with the different levels of cognitive domain of Bloom's taxonomy. As in this, there are three domains of learning, that is cognitive, affective, and psychomotor. Cognitive domain, that is mental skills and knowledge. Psychomotor, manual and physical skills. Affective, attitude, and self. That is what we know is cognition. What we do, that is the psychomotor domain. And what we feel, that's the affective domain. Or we can also say that the cognitive domain that caters to head, psychomotor hands, and affective heart. And all the question papers, they are based on the levels of the cognitive domain. Cognitive domain that involves the development of intellectual skills. And as we all know that it has been mentioned in the CBSE curriculum that the typology of these questions that need to be followed, and according to this question paper design for class 11 and 12, 40% questions, they should be the remembering and understanding based, that is 28 marks out of that 70 marks paper. 30% questions from applying, and 30% questions, that is 21 marks questions, from analyzing, evaluating, and creating level of cognitive domains. As for these 6 different levels of cognition, the lowest level, that is the remember, in which the learners, they need to recall the facts and the basic concepts. Like the questions which we asked from the students, define the term, state the law, give the units this type of questions in which merely the rote memorization is required. This type of questions, they belong to this level of cognition, that is, remember. Then comes the understand, in which the students, they need to explain the concepts, they need to give the reasons, and as one level that form the basis for the other. If there is no remembering, there is no understanding. And they are just like the tiers of a cake, that one tier that lies on the other. If there is remembering, only then there can be understanding. And if there is the understanding of the concepts, only then there will be the application of the concepts. And in the apply level of this domain, the students, they need to apply the knowledge they have learned in the first two levels in the real life unknown situations. As in the science papers, all numerical based questions in which only one formula is used. One formula based numerical questions, they belong to this level of cognitive domain. And similarly, if the level of the numerical is a bit complex, in which the results of one formula, they need to be applied in the second formula again to arrive at the final conclusion. That means we are using more than one formula. Then that numerical will be considered in the next level, that is analyze, in which a concept is broken down into the micro concepts as the result of the one formula that is used to find out the conclusion using the second formula. Similarly, in the chemistry paper, when there is a question that identify A and B, some situation is given, some reactions and equations are given, in which it is mentioned to identify the A, B, C, D, the different compounds, that identification type questions, they belong to this level. Or if it is distinguish, compare, and contrast, this type of questions, they also belong to this analyze level, as when we are to distinguish or compare and contrast between the things. We break down a concept into the micro concepts. We analyze the properties of two different things and then draw the relationship between them. Similarly, in the chemistry question paper, there is definitely one or two questions are there in which the students are asked to arrange the given compounds in a particular increasing or decreasing order. When they are arranging the things in the increasing or decreasing order, then also they are analyzing the properties, maybe the physical or the chemical properties of the different compounds, and then arranging them in the particular order, may it be in the order of their boiling points, their melting points, in order of their reactivity. Then next comes the evaluate. Now, when remembering is there, students, they have learned the concepts, then they understand the concepts. If they understand the concepts, then they'll apply the concepts in the new situation. When they are able to apply, then they'll be able to analyze also. They'll be able to compare and contrast the micro concepts. They'll be able to comment on the properties of the different compounds. Then comes the evaluation. After analysis, if in a question they are to give their decision, some decision making is there, they are to give their judgment, they are to justify their statement, then that question will be considered to this level. Where justification is required, where decision making is required, like generally it is asked out of A and B, which is more basic and why? Out of A and B, which is more reactive and why? The students, they have to give their decision. And this type of questions, they develop a very important skill which is now lacking in the students these days. That's the decision making skill. And now, when they are able to evaluate, then comes the highest level of cognition where some new or original work is produced. That's the creation level type of questions where the students, they need to create a new product. As this type of question is generally not taken up from the books, they are to be framed by the paper setter by themselves, because the situation has to be altogether new to the student. If it is the known situation, then that cannot be the creation type question. If we are to give the creation type question to the students, then those questions they have to be framed by the paper setter so that the situation is altogether new to the students. Or we can also say that the conversion type questions in which the multiple steps are there, 3 or 4 steps are there to go from the product A, then to the B, then to the C, and the students they make their own path to reach at the final stage. They are the creation type questions. Or when they are involved in some investigatory project, they are working on that experiment and they are creating a new data, and then they are analyzing, they are evaluating, and the final project or final conclusion, final solution will be there. They are the creation like questions. And if we are to develop the high order thinking skills among the learners, develop the competencies and skills among the learners, we want to make them future ready, then we need to enhance the levels of the questions. And not only the questions, if we need to enhance the levels of the questions, equally we need to enhance the levels of the learning outcomes and the teaching strategies also. These are the suggestive verbs for the different levels of cognition. Hopefully, you all must have gone through this. But my dear friends, we should not stick only to these verbs as they are just the suggestive verbs, and most of them are overlapping also. Overlapping means like if a diagram based question is there, diagram based question can be on the understanding level, it can be in the analyzing level, it can be even in the creation also if it is a graph based question. I'll be discussing this in detail in the next points also. And these verbs, they are overlapping. We need not to stick to these verbs. The final cognition level, whether it is the low order thinking skill or it is a high order thinking skill, that is to be decided on the basis of the nature of the question only. And as these verbs they are overlapping, you can see here that there are the 6 levels in all. But in the question paper design, as recommended by CBSE, analyzing, evaluating, and creating type questions, they are in the same category, and the collective of these three they have to be 30% questions. So sometimes it may be a problem in deciding whether it is analyzing type question or it is evaluating type question. Even if that confusion arises, it will go to this third category according to this paper design. Here are the certain examples. The first topic that I have taken here, this is osmosis, as it is in the second chapter of solutions. One of the colligative property, osmotic pressure. And from that, on the basis of osmosis, like if it is the remember type question, state one application of reverse osmosis. This is just the recall of the fact. There is no concept making, there is no understanding, there is no application. It is just a recalling of the fact that one of the application of reverse osmosis is to be stated. Then comes the next level in which the student is asked to describe the process of osmosis that require the understanding. After remembering and understanding, then comes the application. And in the application, as here, calculate the osmotic pressure of 1 molar NaCl solution at a temperature of 300 Kelvin. That the student has understood the process of osmosis, gone through the osmotic pressure, and then the osmotic pressure is to be determined for this given situation. Why I'm saying that it's a given situation? As in this situation, the amount of NaCl is fixed. It is 1 molar. We can change this situation. We can change the concentration. So the knowledge that has been learned, the formula that the student has understood, now he is to apply that formula to find out the osmotic pressure for the solution with the given concentration. That's the application type question. Similarly, in the analyzing question comes the next level. With the help of the diagram, show the effect of variation in the applied pressure on osmosis. That if applied pressure is greater than osmotic pressure, or it is less than, or it is equal to the osmotic pressure, these three different situations the student has to analyze. Then comes the evaluation type question. Evaluate the use of the reverse osmosis to purify the water at home. Here, the students will go through the pros and cons of using the reverse osmosis, and then he will give his opinion whether this technique of reverse osmosis to purify the water is a valid technique or it is not. And then comes the highest level, that is creation, where a new situation is given to the student and he is asked to do something out of the box. As here, he is asked to design an experiment to study the effect of 2 molar glucose, 1 molar glucose, zero point 0.1 molar glucose, and pure water. The different concentrations of the solutions are given to the unknown new cells found on the earth. And how will you decide which of these solutions is isotonic with the fluid in this new cell? So, which of you will decide? How will you decide? Here comes also the decision making, the opinion, and then on the basis of his opinion, he has to design that experiment also, the new experiment to be designed, and it should not be from the textbook itself. If the situation is known to the student, again, I repeat, that cannot be the creation type question. And moreover, if we are to give the different levels of the questions to the students, accordingly, we need to align our teaching strategies, our teaching pedagogies, learning objectives, and learning outcomes also with these different levels. If we expect the student to respond to the different levels, we need to incorporate these different levels in our day to day teaching also. Here comes the next example. Here the topic is the solubility and the different levels are there. And one more point to be noted here, as 6 different levels are there. And when we are framing the learning objectives or learning outcomes or the assessments from a particular topic, it's not possible to have all the 6 levels from the same topic sometimes. And it's not even necessary. We may skip a level from one topic, but it is not advisable to skip a level from the whole chapter. The whole of the chapter must include all the levels of cognition, the questions and objectives from all the levels. But in one topic, it may not be possible to have all the levels. So here in the solubility, as here the first question defines solubility, it's only the recalling of the facts which are already known, which test only the rote memorization. Definition is there. Then what is the effect of temperature of the on the solubility of the sugar in water? There comes the understanding. How will you increase the solubility of sugar in water? Now, as the student has understood that with increase in the temperature, the solubility of the sugar increases. Now he is to apply this knowledge that if the sugar is to be dissolved in water and if he need to increase the solubility, then what is to be done? Keep on increasing the temperature. Then comes identify the substance whose solubility in water increases with increase in temperature. Here the 3 different substances are there and the student need to analyze the properties of all the 3 and need to analyze their interactions with water, and then he has to identify the substance whose solubility will increase. That means this is the analyze type question. And to prepare a more concentrated solution of sugar in water, which of the following conditions will you select? Here, as the opinion of the student is asked for. So that's the evaluation type question where the student has to give his or her own opinion on the basis of the concepts understood and analysis done. Now, here comes the next example. First question is, what is Dow's process? As in this Dow's process, there involves the equation for the preparation of preparation of phenol from chlorobenzene. That chlorobenzene is converted to phenol under the drastic conditions of 623 Kelvin temperature and 300 atmospheric pressure. So, if the question is asked in this form, what is Dow's process? So this belongs to the first level. That is, remember, the student has learnt the conditions 623 Kelvin temperature, 300 atmospheric pressure, and this will convert chlorobenzene to phenol. The same question can be asked in another way. How will you prepare phenol from chlorobenzene? Now the answer will be same, the same equation, but as a way of asking the question is different, the level has changed in the first question, in the second question, and so you can see in the third question also. You are provided with benzene, chlorine, HCl, NaOH, and hydrosilminium chloride, and use these reagents to prepare the phenol. In all the three cases, the answer is same. That is Dow's process and the preparation of phenol from chlorobenzene. And in the third question, the chlorobenzene is to be synthesized from the benzene itself. The same question asked in three different ways, and now this is belonging to the three different levels. If it is asked in a way, what is Dow's process? That's a remember. How will you prepare phenol from chlorobenzene? It is understanding. And the same question has now been transformed to the creation level if we have asked it in another way. So, in all these three questions, the concept is same. The answer to these three questions is also same, but they belong to the different level of cognition. So when the students say the question was difficult, it's not only the question was difficult, only the way of asking the question was different. If it is asked directly, what is Dow's process? The question seems to be simpler to the student. If the reagents are given and student is asked to use these reagents to prepare phenol or chlorobenzene, then it seems to be a difficult question. So it is only the way of asking the question which has changed the cognition level. Any question from your side? Hopefully, I'm clear in this point. Now comes the next example. What happens when alcohol react with sodium? This is from the chapter of alcohols, phenols, and ethers. What happens when alcohol react with sodium? It is the remembering question that when alcohol react with sodium, it forms alkoxide along with the liberation of hydrogen. As I've already told, that remembering is the base for all the levels. Until and unless there is no remembering, there will be no understanding. When there is no remembering and no understanding, there will be no application. There will be no analysis. When there is no analysis, there will be no evaluation. So one level forms the basis for the next. What happens when alcohol react with sodium? It is only the recall of the fact that hydrogen gas will be liberated. And why are alcohols acidic in nature? Again, the answer is same. Why are alcohols acidic in nature? In this case, the student will go for the same equation as an evidence that alcohol react with sodium and liberate hydrogen gas. And the acidic character is due to the polarity of OH bond. More or less, the equation in both the questions that remain same. And again, it is the way of asking the question. As the first question, that when alcohol react with sodium, that also indicates the acidic character of alcohols. Then comes the application level. Which isomer of propyl alcohol can be used to generate hydrogen gas more efficiently? Here, the student will apply the knowledge of the different isomers, that is primary and secondary propyl alcohol, N-propyl and secondary propyl alcohol, and which is more efficient. Then analysis. When arrangement is to be done, the characteristics of alcohol, phenol, and water, they are to be understood. They are to be compared with their pKa values and their acidic character to be analyzed. That acidic character to be compared with their pKa values. And on the basis of their pKa values, they are to be arranged in increasing order or in decreasing order. Then comes out of isopropyl alcohol and M-cresol, which should react with NaOH and justify your answer. Where the justification is asked, where the opinion is asked, there comes the decision making. And then use ethanol, sodium metal in air to generate water. Support your answer with the relevant equations. Here, the different reagents are there, and using these reagents, the student has to make his own path to arrive at the final answer. Here's another example that's from the inorganic chemistry part. Write the chemical equation for the reaction of permanganate ion with any of the reagent given. Again, it is remembering recall of the fact that how to write this inorganic equation. What happens when acidified potassium permanganate react with SO2? Now here also, the equation will be same, but the way of asking is different. In the first case, it is asked directly. In the second case, what happens? This comes under the understanding. The answer to both the questions will remain same. How will you use potassium permanganate to detect the presence of sulfur dioxide? And surprisingly, the equation in the third question is also same. The equation in the third question is again potassium permanganate plus SO2. But how it comes application type? Because now the student is applying this reaction to detect the presence of sulfur dioxide. As when permanganate will react with sulfur dioxide, the purple pink color of permanganate ion will disappear. Decolorization of permanganate that indicates the presence of sulfur dioxide, and equation remains same. In all the first three questions, the equation is same and the way of asking the question is different, which is changing the level of cognition. And this makes the question from easier to difficult or from concrete to abstract. Then comes the fourth level, analyzing. Compare the oxidizing power of manganate and permanganate ion. Here the student need to analyze the properties, the oxidation states of manganate and permanganate, and on the basis of their oxidation states, he is to compare which of the two is having the higher oxidizing power. Then evaluation out of HCl or sulfuric acid, which will be used to acidify potassium permanganate. Again, when justification is asked, it comes evaluation. Decision making is there. Out of these two, which will you use? And if the same question is asked in a way, why HCl is used for acidification? Understanding. Why sulfuric acid is used? Understanding. And which of these two will you use? Evaluation. Then comes the next level, that is creation. Again, the situation is given to the student and he is to bring something new out of that situation. Prepare a green colored solution. Of course, it will be permanganate ion by using the different reagents given. Now, as I've already told that if we are to make the assessments as per the different levels of cognition, our learning outcomes first need to be aligned with these levels of cognition. Here is an example from the mechanisms of nucleophilic substitution reactions of haloalkanes and the different levels of learning outcomes as per again Bloom's taxonomy are mentioned. The first learning outcome that by the end of the lesson, the learner will be able to recall the steps of SN1, SN2, remembering explain the concept of SN1 and SN2, that comes understanding, apply the knowledge of structural relationship of haloalkanes with the type of the mechanism they follow, application. Arrange the haloalkanes in order of their increasing or decreasing reactivities. That comes analysis. Analyze the structure of haloalkanes to identify whether it follow SN1 and SN2. Again, this is analysis, or compare and contrast. That is also analysis. So if we will frame the learning outcomes according to these levels, then we need to align our assessments, our question papers with these levels. Now, here is the activity that you all can do at your levels, that choose, like I've given you a number of examples from the different topics, and the same question can be asked in the different ways by changing the different levels of cognition. You can choose any topic from the class and frame the questions of the different levels of cognition. Or another way is take a sample paper, as CBSE has released the sample paper for the year 24-25, and mark the cognition levels to all these questions, and then analyze that question paper, that what percentage of understanding questions is there, what percentage of analysis type questions are there. Take that sample paper, mark the cognitive levels, and then analyze the levels of cognition in that question paper. I'll be discussing a few questions from the sample paper with you in the coming slides. Now, when we are to frame the question paper, first we need to design that question paper. Before preparing the question paper, it need to be designed. It need to be designed. That means we need to prepare the blueprint of the question paper. Here is the example of a blueprint. As you all know, 10 chapters are there. And on the extreme right-hand column, you can see the marks are given, and that's the total weightage of each chapter. The extreme right-hand side, that which indicates 7 marks from the solutions, 9 marks from electrochemistry, 7 from kinetics, 7 from D&F block, and so on, so that the total come out to be 70. Now, as the 7 marks paper has to be from the solutions, before setting up the question paper, we need to set up that how much of questions from solutions, as 7 marks are there, and how to distribute these questions to 1 mark, 2 marks, 3 marks, 4 marks. And I'll come back to this blueprint again. Before that, you can see here in this 33 questions need to be there. 1 mark questions, 16 questions are there, out of which 14 are MCQ type and 4 are assertion reason questions, and total 16 marks, they are the MCQ questions. Then comes the very short answer questions. Marks per question are 2. Total number of questions are 5. That means total 10 marks to be given. Then comes the short answer questions. Short answer questions, 3 marks questions. And for 3 marks, there should be 7 questions and a total of 21 marks. Then comes long answer category 1. They are the case-based questions. They are the 4 marks question. And in these 4 marks question, there are 3 parts as per the sample paper released this year and last year also. The case-based question has 3 parts, 2 parts of 1 mark each, and 1 part of 2 marks. And one more point to be noted here, the case-based questions in chemistry, all the 3 questions for 4 marks, they are the subjective questions. Whereas in the physics question paper, they are objective questions. Here's the difference between physics and chemistry paper. Otherwise, in the previous years, always the pattern was used to be same. This time, this is a minor difference, that the case-based questions in chemistry are subjective, but these case-based questions in physics, they are the MCQ questions. 2 case-based questions, a total of 8 marks to be there. Then comes the long answer type second category questions, 5 marks, 3 questions. So a total of 33 questions for 70 marks. Then, of course, before making the blueprint, we have to see this typology of the questions, remembering and understanding 28 marks, applying 21 marks, analyzing, evaluating, and creating 21 marks. Then this chapter wise weightage. That means before arriving to the blueprint, these three things, I repeat again, these three things need to be considered before arriving at the blueprint. That is the different types of questions, how many questions, what marks for each question. Then comes this typology of question, remembering and understanding based 28 marks, applying 21, and analyzing, evaluating, and creating 21 marks. And then the chapter wise weightage for all these 10 chapters. All these three things are to be considered in collaboration to arrive at this blueprint. As in this blueprint, you can see again on the extreme right hand side are the marks for each chapter. For in the first chapter, 7 marks. And as here you can see MCQ, 1 mark, one question will be there. And there will be 2 questions of 3 marks. And when we decide these questions, like 1 mark questions MCQ, then 1 mark assertion reason, 2 marks, 3 marks, 4 marks, 5 marks questions. For the solutions, a total of 3 questions will be there, 1 question MCQ and 2 question 3 marks. Then in electrochemistry, 9 marks are to be allotted. And in this blueprint, I have allotted 5 marks, 1 question, 2 marks, 1 question, 1 mark assertion reason, and 1 mark MCQ, so that a total of 9 marks. Then comes kinetics, 7 marks. And these 7 marks, they are allotted in a way that there will be 1 case-based question for 4 marks, 1 2 marks question, and 1 MCQ question, so that a total of 7 marks. Accordingly, first we will allot these different types of questions. Now, what we normally do, we make a blueprint with the different type of questions. 1 mark ke kitne questions and 3 marks ke kitne, 5 marks ke kitne, and then we frame the question paper. And what we normally miss is deciding the levels of cognition beforehand. We frame the question paper first and then see or do not see, sorry to say, the levels of cognition. Sometimes we see and sometimes we don't see the levels of cognition. But if we try to see, we see them after framing the question paper. These levels are to be decided before framing the question paper. As in this case, it is mentioned that 1 mark question from the solution, which is MCQ question, it will be application based. Then MCQ from electrochemistry, that will also be application based. Then MCQ from kinetics, it will be analysis type. And now if you count the number of questions in the application based, the total marks should be 21. You can check here. If we go in the MCQ line, let's see the application based question, which have been abbreviated here as AP. The first MCQ from solution, it is application based. Second MCQ from electrochemistry, application based. Then 1 MCQ from coordination is application based. 1 MCQ from haloalkanes, haloarenes is application based. 1 MCQ from amines is application based. Then in the assertion reason, there is no application based question. They all are analysis type. All assertion reason questions, they are analysis type question. As in the assertion reason question, we analyze the 2 different statements, the assertion and reason. The assertion and reason statements, they are analyzed individually, and then the relationship between the 2 is analyzed. So all assertion reason questions, here you can see in the second column, all these 4 questions, they are the analysis category. In 2 marks question, 1 question from electrochemistry, it must be application based. Second is kinetics, application based. Third is coordination, that is also application based. And similarly, if we count all the questions application based, the total must be 21. If this total come out to be 21, then your blueprint is valid. And now you are ready to frame the questions, now to develop the question paper. But if you'll not mark these levels till you are not ready to frame the question paper, if you want to prepare it according to the levels of cognition as given in the curriculum, This is just a suggestive blueprint. You can change it according to your requirement. But the total marks allotted for each level of cognition, for each chapter, total number of questions, they cannot be varied. Normally, we take care of that 33 questions should be there, 5 marks, 5 questions, 2 marks, 7 questions, 3 marks, and chapter weightage is also there. And we skip marking these levels of cognition in the blueprint itself. So if you count the marks allotted to remembering and understanding, that total will be 28. Now, what's the purpose of the blueprint? That is defining the parameters of assessment before the construction of the question paper. We have to decide the parameters, and those parameters, they are to be aligned as mentioned in the curriculum itself. They guide the teachers in creating the assessments as per the predefined parameters, help the teachers evaluate whether their classroom processes cater to the content and cognitive demands of the blueprint. And above all, they ensure the inclusion in the testing tool. As this question paper design, as recommended by CBSE, there are remembering and understanding type questions, there are analysis and evaluation type questions, which cater to the needs of the varied learners. They cater to the needs of the slow learners, the learners with the learning gaps, and they cater to the need of the gifted children also. So this ensure the inclusion in the testing tool also, that some questions they must cater to the learners with learning gaps, and some questions must also cater to the gifted children also. Here comes a sample paper that has been issued by CBSE for the session 24-25, and as these 33 questions are there, and the most important point here, at the last instruction, the use of log tables and calculators is not allowed. A few years back, the log tables they were provided, but now the log tables are not to be used. Wherever the log value is required, log value is given in the question itself. Log tables are not used. Otherwise, earlier in the earlier years, these log tables they were to be used and they were provided during the examination. I've taken here a few examples from the sample paper. As here, it's a first question. Study the graph showing the boiling point of bromoalkane and identify the compounds. Now, on the basis of this graph, the student has to identify the boiling point of the different compounds given. Can you tell me now to which level of cognition this question belongs? Yes, Megha Bharadwaj ma'am, you have raised the hand. You want to say something? Yes, anyone who would answer that? Yes, Sushma ma'am, this is analyze type question. Very nice. It's the analysis type question. As on the basis of the graph, we need to identify the property of the given compounds. Then comes the next question. This is question number 5. Initial concentration of R is given, and what is the half-life of the reaction? And in the marking scheme, as it is MCQ, in the MCQ only the correct option we need to see. We need not to see the description or the calculation, only the option need to be seen. And as it is only one formula based question, that half-life is R naught upon 2K for zero order reaction. So to which category this question belongs? Yes, Megha Bharadwaj ma'am has replied. This is application-based question. Now comes the question number 6. When this compound is treated with water, the product obtained is. Question number 6. To which level this belongs? This is actually the understanding type question. And one more thing here. I have drawn here the structure of anhydride on the right side and see the structure of anhydride in the question number 6. Normally, when in the teaching learning process, we go for this anhydride and we draw the structure like it has been drawn on the right side. But in the question, it is given as here you can see on the left side in the question number 6. It's the same compound, and this can be used as a distractor for the students, as normally they have the habit of writing the anhydride the way I have written in the box in the right side. But in the questions in the NCRT text also, it's written in the way as it is in question number 6. But the students develop a habit of writing it as it is there in the text box. The two are entirely different, and many a times, especially the students with their learning gaps, they fail to identify this difference. So we need to train our students beforehand with the representation of these compounds in the different ways. Next comes the question number 8. Which of the following contains only the beta D glucose as its monosaccharide unit? Which level is it? This is a remember based question. Only the fact need to be recalled. Then comes the next one, in which the increasing order is to be decided. We have to identify which is a correct order. So, as I have already explained, that when increasing or decreasing order to be identified, then we need to analyze the properties of as four different ions here. The properties of four different ions need to be analyzed to reach at the final conclusion. So, this is analyze type question. Then all assertion reason questions, as I've already told you, all assertion reason questions, they are the analysis type question in which the two statements, they are to be analyzed first individually and then the relationship between the two need to be established. Now here in question number 17, this is a question with internal choice. In the questions with internal choice, first of all, it is to be noted that the two different options, like the first part A and B or the second part A and B, their level of cognition must be more or less same. Like if we say one of the question from the understanding level and another from the analysis, this should not be so. The level of cognition should remain same. As in this case also, you can see in the first part is application and second is evaluation. And in the second or part also, one of the question is application based and one is evaluation based. So the level of cognition that has to be more or less same. We can have in the third category as evaluation, creation and analysis. They are in the same category. So we can have that one question evaluate and another creation or evaluation and analysis. But it should not be that one is from the remembering and another is from the evaluation. When or part is there, the different options, they should be from the same level of cognition. And as in this question, see the marking scheme for this. As the first part is of 1 mark, second part is also for 1 mark. And in the marking scheme, both the parts, they have now been split into half and half. Half is for the conclusion and half mark is for the reason beyond. And so is in the second case, half mark is for the decision and half mark is for the justification for that decision. So, in the marking scheme, for the board exams, as we all know that the marking scheme is issued by the board itself and we have to follow that accordingly. But in the school-based exams also, we need to prepare the marking scheme beforehand to bring the objectivity in the evaluation. Otherwise, the students will challenge you. I have got half mark and the other student has got 1 mark in that question. that challenge raising should be avoided, and it can be avoided only if we prepare the marking scheme beforehand. We are clear cut कि कौन से पॉइंट पे मार्क्स देने हैं, क्या नहीं लिखा तो मार्क्स डिडक्ट करने हैं, and all these points they need to be discussed with the students also, that what is to be written and for what not writing the marks will be deducted. Then comes this graph based question. On the basis of this graph, the analysis to be done. And of course, as I've already said, that it is analysis is required. The graph is there. We need to analyze this cell given, and then on the basis of analysis of this graph, we need to answer this question. And in the objective questions, I'll be discussing with you. Some distractors must be there. And in the subjective questions also, the distractors can be there. Now, can you please tell me, anyone, what distractor you find in this question? There is a distractor in this question. It is a subjective question. Normally, we talk about the distractors in the MCQs. In the choices, some distractor should be there. But this is the subjective question where a distractor is there. Anyone, can you identify that distractor in the question? Okay, fine. Normally, when we draw the electrochemical cells, we tell this to the students that by convention, anode is taken on the left hand side and cathode is taken on the right hand side. And as usual, when the students they will look at this cell and they have to represent the cell, see the marking scheme. They will write X ion, that is anode, on the left and Y ion as cathode on the right. But it is reversed. And how is it reversed? What is that indicator which is indicating that it is being reversed? See the direction of the galvanometer. As the direction of the galvanometer is towards right, that means the current or the flow of electrons is in the opposite direction. The direction of the current and then the flow of the electrons, that indicate that Y is anode. Otherwise, by convention, generally we take anode on the left hand side. But in this case, anode is on the right side and it is the direction of the galvanometer which is indicating that the anode is on the right side. So we need to prepare the students for this type of distractors also. Then here, as the first statement, identify X and Y, that indicates that it is analysis type question. As in the marking scheme, we have to identify two compounds X and Y. Half mark is allotted for each. Half mark, 1 mark is for equation, and 1 mark is for the chemical test to distinguish for X and Y. Then this is a numerical question. And two parts are there, but both the parts are independent. If the result of the first part to be used in the second part, then this would have been analysis. But as in this case, the first part is independent, second part is also independent, two different formula, and there is no interconnection between the two formula. So this is the application based question in which the answer is arrived on the basis of the single formula. And as per this distribution, half mark is for formula writing. Even if the student has not written anything else, only the formula is written, half mark can be allotted. Then half mark is for determining the value of n. Half mark is for putting the values, and half mark for the answer in the first part of 2 marks. In this case, as the answer is for half mark, the units are ignored. Otherwise, ideally, the answer should be of 1 mark, in which half mark for the units and half mark for the numeric value. But as a number of things are asked here, so in this case, the weightage to the units has been ignored. So this is also to be pre-decided before starting the paper checking, that are we to deduct the marks for writing the units or not to be deducted.
Excuse me, ma'am.
हाँ जी मैम.
Ma'am, you were saying that these both of these questions are independent.
जी.
But we can see the value of E naught in calculated in the first part is used in the second part. So I think they
But
are
ma'am,
related to each other.
this the otherwise the analysis connection is not there. They are, as in the A and B part, they are asked independently.
Okay.
They are asked independently in A and B part, and the marks allotted are also mentioned there in the question itself. 2 marks for the first part and 1 mark for the second part. They are asked independently, so we'll take them under application. Otherwise, also I've told you that these verbs and they are overlapping itself.
Okay, okay. Fine, ma'am.
Then comes this case study based question. And in most of the cases, the based questions, they must be analysis type question. And so avoid asking the remembering based question from the case based questions. As in the case based question, some situation is given to the student. And on the basis of that situation, the student has to analyze that situation and answer accordingly. If we give the situation to the student and then ask the student define the term, then the purpose of that giving the situation is forfeited. So we should avoid giving the remember or understanding type questions in the case based question. And as these case based questions, they must be on the basis of the situation given to the students. So most of these questions, they must be from the analysis type. And this question also you can see as a data is given and data analysis is required. This is analysis type question. Then comes this organic 5 marks question. First part is evaluation, second is analysis, and third part is also analysis type question. Then for the graph based question, as I told you in the beginning itself, that the graph based question can also cater to the different levels. If the student is asked to plot the graph of the known fact or known equation, like plot the concentration of the reactant versus time graph, some trend is to be plotted, the trend which is already known to the student, then this is an understanding type question. If the graph is given and on the basis of the graph something is asked, then it is analysis question. As in the second question, the concentration of the reactant versus time graph is given and the student has to find the order and slope of line from this graph. If the known graph is to be drawn, then understanding. Graph diya hai, uske basis पर question is asked, then it is analysis. And if the graph is to be plotted from the original data of an unknown experiment, from that data the graph to be plotted, then this is creation type question. So these graph based questions, they can be understanding, analysis, or creation depending upon the nature of the question. Then comes the question paper pattern. As we all chemistry teachers must be knowing that the name reactions, they are asked directly in the question paper. This is the list of all the name reactions from the different chapters of organic chemistry. We can provide this list to the students so that they have this list handy with them, and these name reactions, they belong to the remember category. If they are asked directly, like illustrate Finkelstein reaction, illustrate Schwartz reaction, that's a remember category, in which initially 1 mark was allotted for writing the equation itself, but for last 2 years in the board marking scheme, it is mentioned that half mark is for the equation and half mark is for writing the names of the reactants and products. The names of the reactants and products, they must be written and half mark is allotted for that. Then mechanism based questions are also there in the question paper. This is the list of the mechanisms from all the chapters of organic chemistry. And in the mechanism based question, the care must be taken to draw the arrows for the shifting of the lone pairs. Lone pairs and the arrows, they must be properly mentioned and weightage to be given for the lone pairs and arrows also. Then the question is there on the distinguish based also, as in the sample paper also, there was a question that chemical test to distinguish between the given pairs of organic compounds, and these are the test from all the chapters of organic chemistry. We can provide such type of list to the students, and they are all the tests which are involved in all the 4 chapters. And while answering the chemical test to distinguish between the pairs of organic compounds, normally this question is of 1 mark, or in 2 marks, 2 parts are asked. That is 1 mark for one distinction. And in that 1 mark, normally the students write only the name of the test. And it is clearly mentioned in the CBSE marking scheme that no credit will be given if the student mention only the name of the test. What need to be mentioned? What are the key points for this type of question? That's the name of the test, the reagents to be used, the observation, that some physical observation must be there, some precipitates are formed, the gas is evolved, color change is there, vapors are there. Some observation must be there, and that observation must be mentioned. Then which compound will give positive test and which will give the negative test, as we are to distinguish between the compounds on the basis of this test, and equation if any. As per CBSE marking scheme, no weightage is given for writing the equation, but it is suggested that equation is there, then the students must write. Otherwise, as such, weightage is not there till now in the CBSE marking scheme. As an example, give a chemical test to distinguish between pentane 2-one and pentane 3-one. In this case, these 2 compounds, they can be distinguished on the basis of the iodoform test. The reagents used, they are sodium hydroxide and iodine. Observation, that's the yellow precipitates formed of iodoform, and which will give the positive test, that is pentane 2-one being methyl ketone will give the positive test. All this information must be there in 1 mark question. And the weightage for equation, although it is not there, but it is advisable to write the equation, because if the student commits some mistake in mentioning these parameters, then equation can balance that. Then comes, as I told you, that if the arrange type questions, they are normally asked in the chemistry examination. Arrange in increasing or decreasing order. I apologize for the spelling mistake in increasing. And in the increasing and decreasing order, as here an example is given for the order of acidic character. One is increasing order, another is decreasing order. Technically, although they both are correct, we say 3 is less than 5 or 5 is greater than 3. Technically, they both are correct, but one is increasing order, another is decreasing order. And my dear friends, last year it was mentioned in the marking scheme that if increasing order is mentioned, then the credit is to be given only for the increasing order and not for decreasing order, and vice versa. If decreasing is asked, then the credit is to be given for decreasing, not for increasing, although technically they both are correct. And generally, in this type of questions, explanation is not required and it is not asked. Only 1 mark is given for arranging them. And even if one of the reagent is not in its order, no credit is given, no half mark, either 1 or 0. All inorganic equations, they must be balanced, but this relaxation is there in organic equations, especially when the major and minor products are to be mentioned. There the balancing is relaxed, as it is not possible to balance those equations, but half mark credit is given for balancing the inorganic equations. And in the numerical on the colligative properties from the solutions, normally the students, they miss writing the I factor, Bantoff factor is missed. Even if the student has done all the steps, final answer is there, units are also there as per marking scheme by board. If he has not used the I factor, then the credit is not to be given, not even half mark for the formula is given. So is in the Nernst equation. If the power to the concentration term is not used, then no credit is to be given. As you can see here in the example, this is a Nernst equation question, and in this case, and the Nernst equation, it is H positive to the power 14. Normally, the students, they miss writing the powers, and while writing very large number, H positive to the power 14, they miss this. And if this power is missed in the first step itself, no credit will be given. It will be 0 if this 14 is not mentioned. Otherwise, the distribution is half mark for the formula, half mark for H positive concentration, 1 mark for putting the values, and then 1 mark for the answer, in which half mark is for the numeric value and half mark is for the unit. I'm sorry, actually, we are getting out of time, so I have to finish it hurriedly. Here is the next example on the solutions for Bantoff factor. As you can see here, I factor is 3. If I factor 3 is not written, then no mark is to be given. Otherwise, the distribution is half mark for the I factor, half mark for the formula, 1 mark for the answer. And in this case, it's the freezing point which is asked. Till depression in freezing point, 2 marks, and freezing point, it is 0 minus delta T. If this step is missed, then 1 mark is to be deducted. So if depression in freezing point is determined, but freezing point asked and it is not determined, this step carry full 1 mark. So here comes the guidelines for writing the multiple choice items. An item should assess an important concept. And especially in case of MCQs, as you can see here, if the learning outcome is that the student will be able to describe Bohr's model, and to test this outcome, we have planned this test item. Test item here means the question: what was Niels Bohr's profession? Is this assessing an important part of the learning outcome? So this type of questions, they must be avoided, and the test item that should assess an important concept. Then is the next example. Here on one side, the question is, Geeta decided to take flowers for her friend's birthday. While she was plucking flowers from her garden, she was stung by a bee. What should Geeta use in order to ease the irritation and pain? And what, according to this instruction, that items should be written in unambiguous, simple, and clear language. The words used in the item should eliminate all elements that are irrelevant to the actual question and concentrate on being precise and to the point. So, this question can be reframed as the irritation and pain caused by a bee sting can be eased by. Now, in this case, the smallest unit of an element having the properties of that element is n. Now, can you guess the answer and what mistake has been committed while framing this question? Anyone who can explain what mistake has been committed while framing this question? As here the question ends with n, and this indicates that after n, the answer should be atom. If the student has no cognitive ability for this question, even then the student can guess the answer. And the statement should be framed as the smallest unit of element having the properties of the element is A or N should be in the options. And follow the grammatic consistency between the stem and options. If the stem or the distractors have confusing grammatic elements, it may automatically give away the key. And the students are test-wise. That is, they use the clues to select the correct answers that are not related to the knowledge or skill being assessed. Another example where the learning outcome is compare acidic character of alcohols and phenols. And the test item is, what is the effect on the acidic character of phenol if acid strengthening nitro group is present at para position? Can you identify the mistake committed in this test item? Yes, anyone? Can you identify the mistake committed in this test item? What is the effect on the acidic character of phenol if acid strengthening nitro group is present at the para position? The statement itself has the answer. As it has been mentioned that nitro group is acid strengthening. And the statement itself has a clue to the answer, and this type of clues should not be there in the statements. Then here you can see in the first case, the repetition of words is there. The items should have no repetitions in the options, and the distractors in the items should be appropriately created to eliminate the repetitions. As instead of framing in the first way, the question can be framed in a simple way, as ozone can be obtained between three atoms of oxygen unite into how many molecules? One, two, three, or four, instead of repeating the same thing in the options itself. Be sure that there is only one correct or clearly best answer. Compare the acidic character of alcohols and phenols. Pick the odd one out. Now, in this case, the question is pick the odd one out. But on what basis it is to be picked? It is not clearly mentioned. Whether the student is to pick phenol, that phenol has no substituents and the other has substituents, or the student can pick orthomethylphenol, as orthomethylphenol has acid weakening group, while the other two options they have the acid strengthening group, or the student can pick the option D, which has two groups. So it is not mentioned that pick the odd one out on what basis. Then option in the item should be phrased in such a way that there are no opposites. Repetitions or opposite alternatives that tend to eliminate the diversity in the distractors. The distractors need to be created in such a way that each one is plausible. As in this case, you can see the question is which is not correct. One thing is not correct. The negative statements, they should be avoided. Instead of writing it as not correct, it can be framed as incorrect or must be in a positive statement. Another is catalyst raises the activation energy. See the option B and C. Catalyst raises the activation energy. Catalyst lowers the activation energy. Two opposite statements are there. That means these two opposite statements, they have ruled out the option A and D. Even if the student has no cognition level for this question, that student also get the clue that the answer can be B or C. So this type of opposites should be avoided in the options. Now, in this case, MX6 is a molecule with octahedral geometry. How many XMX bonds are at 180 degrees? Anyone who can answer to this question? MX6 is a molecule with octahedral geometry. How many XMX bonds are at 180 degrees? 1, 2, 3, or 4? 2. 2. Okay. Anyone else?
Three will be there.
Yeah. And as normally for the octahedral geometry, when we say to students, draw a square and go for a pyramid above that square and pyramid below that. Normally they take one as the option and they skip the other two. And the correct option, it should be 3. So if in the first case, option 1 is not there, in the second framed question, option 1 is not there. So which would be the better way to give the options? Should it be 1, 2, 3, 4, or should it be 2, 3, 4, 6? Which is a strong distractor in this case? Correct option is 3, and a highly strong distractor is option 1. So use the strong distractors to assess the competences. So finally, these are the additional points regarding the development of the options. Use plausible distractors, vary the positions of the key. Like it should not be that all the MCQs, they have the option B as the correct answer, or most of them have the option B as the correct. They vary the position of the answer key. Place your options in the logical or numeric order. Distractors not chosen by any student should be replaced next time, and use true statements that don't correctly answer the question rather than obvious wrong statements. Use letters for bulleting the options. As students, they may get confused when answers are in numerical form. Like options should not be 1, 2, 3, 4. They should be A, B, C, D. Avoid difficult vocabulary and align the items to the learning outcomes. That's all for the day at my end. Any query from your side?
Yeah, ma'am. I'm Megha Bhadwar from Bhavan Vidyalaya Panchkula.
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, my query is the bifurcation that you have given in the form of blueprint
Yeah.
for the different cognitive domains.
Ji.
That bifurcation is given by CBSE or is
No,
it
no,
as
no,
per
ma'am.
the...
No, ma'am. I told that it is only suggestive.
Okay,
It's
okay.
not
That's what I
CBSE.
was wondering. Yeah, yeah.
No,
I was wondering for that
no,
only.
no.
Yeah.
It's only suggestive. I told there
Sure,
also
sure. That's
that
what I...
you can make the blueprint according to your
Yes, yes.
requirement. Yeah, it's
That's
not by
what I was
CBSE. It's
asking.
only one of the example.
Okay, fine, 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 ma'am. Thank you
It's
so
just
much.
an example to say that the levels of cognition should be decided before framing the question.
I understand, but I was in the confusion of this only, that whether maybe it is given by
No,
CBSE
no,
and
it's
I am
not by
not aware.
CBSE. It's
Fine,
not
ma'am.
by CBSE.
Okay, yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. It was a wonderful session.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Harpreet ma'am. Now I invite Mr. Hartinder Sharma, PGT Physics, Bharti Vidya Bhavan SL Public School, Amritsar, to extend vote of thanks to Harpreet ma'am. Sir, please.
Thank you, ma'am. I extend my heartfelt gratitude to our regional educational officer, Dr. A.K. Sharma sir, for providing such a platform where teachers across the region can share their best practices and collaborate to equip themselves with the innovative pedagogies so as to get the required learning outcomes during the classroom teaching. My dear friends, the objective of education is to ignite the young minds so that the young minds can develop and enhance critical thinking, creativity, problem solving skill, decision making skill, etc. And assessment is a very effective tool to evaluate young minds with regards to the competencies they have gained. So thus, there is an urgent need to transform all assessments from rote learning, textbook driven, to the competency based. My sincerest thanks to Harpreet ma'am, PhD Chemistry, Bhavan SL Public School, Amritsar, for sharing her insight on the strategies to develop a good competency based question paper aligned with NAP 2020. My dear friends, the most important point is that we have to integrate Bloom's taxonomy cognitive level in our day-to-day teaching. By just having a glance on the taxonomy, we won't be able to learn it. The best thing is we will have to integrate it in our education system. All lesson plans, all assessments, all assignments in a classroom teaching should be aligned with the cognitive level of Bloom's taxonomy. Develop original questions that can test the competencies We shouldn't copy the questions from the sample papers. See, what is the vision of CBSE? The CBSE wants to eliminate rote learning and predictability for its question papers. The question paper should not be predictable. क्वेश्चन पेपर्स में ये नहीं है कि टीचर ने कुछ क्वेश्चंस मार्क कर दिए, ओवरनाइट हमने उसको रोट लर्निंग किया और नेक्स्ट डे हमने उसको वॉमिट आउट कर दिया. दिस इज नॉट द विजन ऑफ सीबीएसई and we shouldn't do. We should avoid these things in the classroom teaching. Harpreet ma'am has categorically explained a few points which I just want to repeat here. The first thing is, whenever we make a blueprint, we are to add the cognitive level of Bloom's taxonomy at that particular time only. But what we do actually, we first develop the question paper and then we write the cognitive level. And then what happens? Our question paper deviates from the guidelines of CBSE. We don't follow the typology of the questions which the CBSE has instructed us. The second is, while developing a question paper, it is our duty. We are to write the time limit in front of each question. This is for our reference only. We are not to tell it to the children. And at the end of the day, when you frame 33 questions, you count the time. And it should be less than 3 hours. And this is very important instruction given by the CBSE to all the teachers at all the stages. And the next point is, so very important, the development of answer key. Why answer key is developed? To remove the subjectivity and to bring the objectivity in the evaluation process. ये हमारी मर्जी पे नहीं होना चाहिए, किसी को एक क्वेश्चन के 4 दे दिए, किसी को 3 दे दिए, किसी को 2 दे दिए. Rubrics हमें डेवलप करने. We have to develop the rubrics. And there is a very important guideline issued by Dr. Nita Karwal, ex-chairperson of CBSE, that all creative answers should be given weightage in the answer key, in the evaluation process. If the student is not following NCERT textbook and he has or she has developed his or her own answer, a creative answer, which is logically and technically correct, but it is not aligned with the answer key of the teacher, that should be given the due credit. All creative answers. Bring the objectivity in the evaluation process. And if you do this, my dear friends, then your children will acquire the 21st century skills and all required competencies which the CBSE wants in our young minds so that they are future ready. We are to make our children future ready. We are to develop the competencies among them. And for that, the excellent tool is assessment. Thank you very much once again to Dr. A.K. Sharma sir. Thank you to all the participants who have joined today's session. And I hope you will take the learning back to your place and you will implement all these learnings from today's session in your day-to-day teaching learning process. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I request Dr. A.K. Sharma sir to share his views also. Sir, please.
So, dear friends, Mr. Artinder has explained almost all the things about the time limit, about the marks, about the development of answer key, about asking the cognitive type questions. It was a wonderful session and I have thoroughly enjoyed, and might be that you also have enjoyed. Only I'd like to add one point that while making question paper, please see that question paper should be of 70 marks. It should not be of 71 or 69. Sometimes it happens that in hurry or maybe that some other reason, our counting goes wrong. I have seen in many cases, even sometime we have seen in CBSE paper also, that the counting is not proper. So when you make the paper, please see that totaling of all the very short answer, long answer, whatever questions are there, totaling of all should be 70. So rest as well explained, beautifully explained, and I thank the team Amrit sir because this physics, chemistry, and biology. These three sessions were taken by Amrit sir, and three persons, Gurpreet Kaur, Harpreet Kaur, and Artinder. So I congratulate them, appreciate them. They have done a wonderful job. And I convey my regards and thanks to their principal and director, Dr. Intabullah, and also other computer teachers who are involved in this. I also extend my heartfelt thanks to all the teachers who have attended these programs. I hope that these programs will be beneficial for you. These programs are already recorded and they are available on our YouTube channel. So I'll send you the link. Please subscribe and share with your friends. After this, the completion of design and development of question paper, when Mr. Hartinder was saying something to you, I was thinking that we should start one session. It's an open session for all, irrespective of physics, chemistry, biology. And that I'm thinking that that the name should be Meri Avasam. That is, every teacher can speak for 40, 45 minutes. And he can explain one of the wonderful things he has done in his life. It can be anything related to education, experimentation, innovation, dealing with the children, or any episode that he wants to share. If you want, you can make PowerPoint, otherwise you can explain. So very soon, we are starting this particular program. If anybody is interested, any one of you, if he is interested, please message me so that we can include you in that program. This program will be of 45 to 60 minutes of duration. In between, you can finish. And daily, we'll have one episode of the teacher who will explain his innovation or his, anything that is related to his life, but it should be educational in the real sense. So thank you very much. Thank you all, team of the sir. You have done a wonderful job.
Thank you,
Thank you,
sir.
sir. Thank you to all the teachers who attended.
Thank you, sir.
Convey my regards to your
Thank you,
family.
sir.
I have
Thank you
taken
very
a lot
much.
of time of theirs.
Feedback form and the attendance link has been shared in the chat box. Kindly fill it before leaving. Sir, with due permission of yours, can we end the session after Shanti Mantra?
Yes. Please.
पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शांति शांति हरि ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः हरि ओम.
Thank you very much. Kindly fill the attendance form before leaving the meeting.